All right, man. So, you know, get an environment set up for yourself so that you can actually start, um, just start getting into it. I don't really know how else to phrase it. So, I'm on Linux. You're on Windows. I'm really going to try to make that not matter for this. I know that your Linux installation, your Ubuntu installation, is probably old at this point. Um, so I'm gonna show you everything inside of a VM, virtual machine. It's up to you how you want to do it. I recommend following along with me to begin with, but you know a little bit, so feel free to do whatever you want. So first things first, let's get our VM set up. Um, so what is a VM? Let's see what Wikipedia has to say about it. An emulation of a computer system. Provides functionality of a physical computer. So that just means that you can run Linux and Windows if you choose, or you can run Linux and Linux if you choose. Doesn't really matter. So first of all, we need a VM emulator. The one that I use, the one that's free, is VirtualBox. So for you, alright, so let's talk about this terminology first, because you probably come here and there's no big button that says download. So uh, first term here is host. So the host machine is the machine hosting the virtual machine. So for you, assuming you're using your Windows computer, you have a Windows host. Oh, look at that. It might as well be a big button. So you're going to download this exe and install it. I, on the other hand, have to go to Linux distributions. Oh God, what version am I running? I'm on 1804. Now, how do I know that? Must be release. Oop, -A. Now, that doesn't actually help us. There is a way to get the Ubuntu version from Linux Mint. I don't remember how to do it, and it's hard to find, at least in my experience. Linux Mint determine Ubuntu version. See if we can find it. Command line. But that's on Ask Ubuntu. Is Mint on here? Ooh. Oh, baby. This is it. Linux Mint. Where's the Ubuntu part? Okay, here we go. So we've got Ubuntu codename Bionic. So that's too bad that it's too bad it doesn't actually say it in there, but we can find it. Ubuntu Bionic. There it is. Bionic Beaver. Nice. 1804. So confirmed. And that's going to give me a deb file. Download that. Get rid of that. And alright, so now I got my deb file here. So I'm showing you this in case you do want to do it on your Ubuntu machine, although it's pretty old. You might not want to do that. Conflicts with the installed package. Okay, well, we're going to purge it then. Hope I don't break something. Should I purge VirtualBox star? Just get rid of all of them. Yep. So purge is how you delete something that you've installed with apt. You might want to know, just be aware that that exists for Ubuntu, because chances are at some point you'll be starting to use Linux. Alright, so let's try this again. There we go. Cool. Oh. And I'll be back, works column. That took like an hour. Uh, was downloaded VirtualBox, installed it, and while I'm going, I need to start this curriculum for you. So damn it. Now, I have test/development environment here because make no mistake, if you're going to get into this, you're going to get into quality assurance and testing. If you want to progress beyond just entry level, you will be doing programming. You will be doing development at some point. Excuse me, and it's not because you're going to be creating websites necessarily, or whatever it is you end up testing, but because you're going to have to write tools to do the testing for you. You can't just sit there and click around your entire career. I mean, I guess you could, but is that really what you want to do? So I'll just make this informal to start with. So say Linux virtual machine, and we're going to say VirtualBox. And let's give URL here. And let's see. So for Linux, we're going to be doing Ubuntu LTS, which is long-term support. And that's we'll get to that. And then say Linux Mint. So let's keep going with the virtual machine. I will say advanced Vagrant. So we'll get to this stuff. So let's see now. We got VirtualBox installed. So let's open it up. All right. So I've got a few here. We're going to create a new one. Now we're going to call this Linux Mint QA. Whatever, it's fine. The default's Ubuntu. We're going to go 64-bit if it lets us. Ah, shit. That sucks. Don't let you do 64-bit. I feel like an idiot. I really don't let you do 64? Did I just make a fool out of myself? Yeah. You need a 64-bit processor with hardware virtualization support. Oh shit. You must enable hardware virtualization. Damn it. That means I have to restart my computer. Alright, let's um so let's make sure. Alright, there, now we got the 64-bit. Alright, so in order to do that, I'm sure you're gonna have to do the same thing. Let's so I actually had to enable virtualization from my BIOS, which you're going to have to do as well. I didn't find... Where's the site? So I had to look it up on my phone. Damn it. I want to get the article that I used because it had a lot of the motherboard manufacturers on it. Lame. Alright, let's get this piece. Is unshare.com. What the hell? Is it site? I don't know why the hell that didn't come up. So this is what I had to do. So I'm gonna put this link in there. That sucked. I didn't realize that that was such a difficult setting. I've turned it on before, but I only have to do it once, so enable. BIOS. So go there. Let's put these on different lines. Alright. So, we were at the step where we were going to create a new VM. So, Linux Mint QA, Ubuntu 64. Alright, so for memory, so I think I had, yeah, so you want to go to expert mode. And, yeah, Linux is correct, Ubuntu 64 is correct. So for memory size, this is going to depend on how much RAM you have on your machine. So, let's see, which one is it? There we go. So my machine has a lot. So I have 126 gigs of RAM. Your machine's not going to have that much. You might have 8 gigs or 16 gigs. So depending on what you have, set this accordingly. But I'm going to go with 4096. We're going to say 4 gigs. Your machine should be able to handle that no problem, as long as you're only running one of these at a time. We'll create a virtual hard disk. VirtualBox disk image, yep, and we'll also do dynamically allocated. So we're going to make this, make sure you put this on your big ass drive. So notice here it gives me the option on where to put this. Make a new folder in your big ass drive and put it there. And you might want to do this, actually you probably want to do the same thing over here as well. Set that in your big ass drive. So let's say virtual machine, say create a folder in your big ass drive called VM. We'll say VM stuff. And from that, once you set this one, I don't think you're going to have to set this one. I think it's just going to reuse what you put there. So make that your VM stuff folder. And we'll set this to, so what, you got a terabyte. So let's just set this to 60 gigs. That'll be way more than you need, I hope. So create that. Alright, that's great. So click on settings. This is all fine. Shared clipboard and drag and drop are going to be nice features to have. So we'll set those up. Don't need any of that. We don't need a floppy. We do need an optical, and you'll see why soon. The rest of the stuff is fine. One CPU is fine. Alright, those are all fine. Video memory, I don't know. That's the default. I guess that's okay. Don't need any of that. Storage. We'll be coming back here in a minute. Don't care about that. It's fine. All the defaults here are fine. We're not going to set up any shared folders right now. So let's go back to storage. So actually, let's not. We'll hit OK because all that looks fine. So let's start. All right. So immediately I get a warning containing a disk to start your new virtual machine from. So we don't actually have, we haven't actually installed our operating system yet. So this is just going to boot up and it's going to say nothing. Or it's going to give us a BIOS error. So we'll kill it. Power off. We don't need to save anything. Alright, so that's because we haven't given it a thing to install Linux with yet. So this little disk, that's got a main optical drive, right? So we're going to click on this little thing over here, and we're going to be selecting a disk file. We don't have one yet, so that's our next step. So we're going to use Linux Mint. Remember, only download this from a trusted source. This says linuxmint.com. That better be the right website. And the, not that one. It says connection is secure. So the SSL certificate is good enough. So we're going to do Cinnamon 64-bit. It takes you here. Where's the big download button? I always get it from JMU. You can choose to download it from somewhere else if you want. That should be fast enough. And now we're just going to sit on our asses until this finishes. I'll go ahead and update the curriculum. So go to download. And if for whatever reason it's unnecessary, but if you wanted to do Ubuntu, we can do that too. We're not gonna. So this says LTS. We want that. This is desktop and server. For the testing that we're going to be doing, server is a little more advanced, but desktop has everything we're going to need. So, oh shit. So let's see here. How can I make this a little better? Okay, we're still downloading here. So while we're waiting for that, And again, you don't have to do this necessarily. You can just use your Linux installation that you already have if you want. But virtual machines are uh, they're not as important to know about as they used to be. You'll see why as we go through this, but it's still good to know about, and it's still good on the off chance that it's just something that's good to increase your understanding of the environment in which you're working. So with VirtualBox, you get this nice GUI, and once we actually install it, it's going to look just like you're using a computer that has Linux installed. So if you wanted to be a little more advanced, this is what I use at work. It's a product called Vagrant. So we're not going to be doing this. This is more than you need right now. But if you wanted to do some more advanced work on your own, Vagrant is how you control these virtual boxes from the command line. But like I said, we don't need to do that right now. But it probably is good that you know that it exists. Now, if I wasn't such a noob, I'd find every spot that had Linux on it, and I'd replace it with GNU/Linux. There. Now it's technically accurate, according to Richard Stallman. Now, when you go to your interview, if you say GNU Linux, like, you don't need to do that. You're just going to sound pretentious. It, if you wanted to bring this up and just say, hey, I'm going to be saying Linux, but I know it's really GNU Linux, then that's good enough. You don't have to say it like this every single time. People are going to know what you're talking about. And if you say GNU Linux, you're just going to sound like an asshole. Alright, here we go. Even though you'd sound like an asshole, you would be technically accurate. So we're going to choose a disk file. Oh, God. Let's go to downloads. There it is. Now, this looks like ass, this file selector, so let's see what it really looks like on your computer. So, just the ISO in your downloads folder. That's it. So we're going to open that. Alright, so now we have a bootable Linux ISO loaded into your virtual machine's optical drive. Is that okay? We'll start this piece. So now it didn't give me that warning. And hey, look at that. Oh, shit. Yeah, we're going to get a lot of these, so I'm not going to show this again. What you need to know is that it's right control. And actually... Oh, damn it, I waited too long. It's alright, though. So I will note that for you. Go away. This will say... Okay. Coming back over here, just double click on the big button that says install. Oh god, we'll screen this. Oh yeah. We're going to fix this, don't worry. English, or if you wanted to make it way harder. Don't, what is that, WhatsApp? Isn't that the Facebook thing? God. I didn't know there was a dedicated app for it. LibreOffice is cool. Of course, Google Docs is just as good. For most things. Steam, yeah, hit or miss. Dropbox, cool. Blender's awesome if you want to do 3D modeling. Never done that. I have, but I'm not very good at it. hey, look at that. We're using VirtualBox. I won't get into wine, but wine's awesome too. Actually, wine was, you'll recognize that. That was what I had to set up when I installed League of Legends on Linux. Yeah, whatever. Oh yeah, the system updater is easy in Mint. Alright. Not as quick as I was hoping this would be. I guess it's because I'm. No, I think I am writing to my SSD. Whatever. Cool. Restart. Alright, so it's telling us to remove the installation medium. Let's see if we can do that from here. Let's go to machine settings, I think. And... oh, okay. It ejected it for us. Just hit enter. Now make sure, you see I'm moving the mouse around. I don't know if enter is going to be taken. Yes, it was. Cool. Here we go. Alright, letter A. I'm going to silence this notification. Do you want to automatically run? We trust VirtualBox, so we're going to run. And letter A. Authenticate. Alright, and I will Alright, I'm back. Alright, so now the guest editions are installed. I'll probably have to restart it. Oh, no, it took. But I'm going to restart it anyway because I don't know if the driver loaded. Alright, so let's capture those steps. Alright, whatever. So we're in a VM, so I'm not too worried about the drivers. Click on the little thing down here because we've got to set up our repositories and our updates. Do you want to switch to a local mirror? The answer is yes. Actually, before we continue, I'm going to go to themes. Now, obviously, this is personal preference. You're just seeing what I like, but you're going to be in here all day, every day. So making it look the way you want it to look is important. At least it is to me. So I like the default GNOME icons. I don't like the custom Linux Mint icons. And I like the dark mode. I do the black pointer, but we'll stick with the white one for now. Okay, so there's that. So now this is in dark mode. Definitely easier on my eyes. Alright, so we need to pick... Let's start this over. I hope it asks me again. And it doesn't. Well, a new version of the update manager is available, so let's do that. And while it's running... Okay. Alright, so we're going to switch to a local mirror, and then I'll tell you what that actually means. So, I'm just going to click on these. So, I do JMU. You can do Harvard, whatever you want. JMU is nice and fast, local, and it's a college. So, apply. Click OK. So that's a Linux Mint software mirror. We also need to choose an Ubuntu mirror. So I choose Virginia Tech. And you can choose, you're free to choose whatever you want. JMU's in here too. But give VT a little, oh my god, that's fast. Alright. Hit OK again. And while we're waiting, we can eject the VirtualBox disk. We don't need it anymore. Okay. So now that we've updated our mirrors, we need to refresh. So what's a mirror? What's a repository? in Ubuntu slash Debian slash Linux Mint land. It's just it's like an app store, except an app store is an abomination uh, in terms of a comparison. But that's basically what it is. It's where does your machine look on the internet for all of these updated packages? That's all it means. And since we're using Linux and we're using Linux Mint, we're going to trust the defaults most of the time. And all these steps that I'm doing, even though it's in a virtual machine, I mean, this all works. I'm in Linux, so this will all work if you're booting from your other drive. If you're actually in Linux and not in a virtual machine. While that's running, I'm just gonna, oops, number these. And let's talk a little bit about LTS and what that means. So, in the software world, shit, terrible. All right. There's a concept known as long-term support. Now, Ubuntu, for me at my job, is the most prominent. Um, all it means is these these software companies or just software authors, they, you put out a piece of software, you have to maintain it. Uh, so I guess the easiest example is with Windows, right? So Windows XP, right? If you downloaded that today, which I mean, you can, you're not supposed to, but let's say that you wanted to download a version of Windows. Let's see here. So Microsoft actually publishes their. Oh, hey, check it out. There's Vagrant. Um, Microsoft actually publishes their. Oh my god. Oh, that sucks. Oh shit. Okay. So Microsoft publishes their own. See how big that is? They publish their own virtual machines for web developers so that you can test your application in Internet Explorer or Edge without actually having to own or purchase Windows, which is nice. It's nice that they do that. Uh, you used to have options. You used to be able to get a VM for Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows 10, and even Windows XP. In fact, I probably still have some of them. Let's see if I can find them. Oh, hell yeah. All right, because I keep everything. So they even had one for Windows XP. Now, I'm not going to... I guess I could boot it up to show you. Um, Maybe I'll do that. I'll do that in a second here. Let's get it running. Let's import this piece. It'll take a little bit. Um, so the whole point of this was LTS. What does it mean? Why do you care about it? Why is it important? Uh, it's important because the publishers slash authors slash maintainers of these pieces of software, they... oh, fuck. It went full screen. I didn't read the little prompt. Shit, hold on. You can see the little preview here. Let's get this out of full screen. Oh yeah, you remember that sound? So I mean, this is the real deal. This is really Windows XP directly from Microsoft. God, this takes me back, dude. Website doesn't work. So me having Windows XP on the internet right now is, I wouldn't say dangerous, but definitely not safe for me. And somebody's already installing a botnet on here, um, or a Bitcoin miner or something. LTS, long-term support, is a label or a tag or something given to pieces of software that that are maintained for a long period of time, or a significant, sustainable period of time. Um, like they get security updates, they get functionality updates sometimes. Um, you always want to use the LTS version of an application or a piece of software if it exists. Another example is one that I use a lot, which is Node.js. They actually have a long-term support schedule. So that it even says LTS right there. We'll get into Node a lot later. But um, if there is an LTS version, unless you have a reason to use something else, you typically want to use LTS because you know that that's going to be maintained for a long enough period of time to make it worth the time and money investment. Um, so that's it. So like at work, we would never use this. We would always use this for production, and even for testing. Like we don't develop based on the bleeding edge. We could, we just don't have the capacity to right now. So that's just a tiny, brief introduction to long-term support. So let's get back to our system here. All right, it says we're up to date. So let's switch gears. I went off on a pretty big tangent there. Let's switch gears back into Linux and updating our environment here. So that stuff that we just did with this tool right here, with this GUI, we could actually do that on the terminal. And I'm only going to show you this because I know you already know about it. So what we just did is exactly the same as this. So that's where we updated, this is where it refreshed the cache when we updated the repositories. So this downloads, it doesn't actually download the software for us, it downloads a list of the available software. So once we have that, we can then do a sudo apt upgrade. Now, we don't have anything to upgrade because we just did it, but the stuff that you just saw in this tool, that's the exact same thing as this. And I'm just showing you that so that you've seen it before. Alright, let's see what's next. So we've gone through downloading Linux, we've gone through the types that you want to familiarize yourself with, which let's talk a little bit more about that. I use Linux Mint and Ubuntu sometimes interchangeably in this context. They're not the same thing, obviously, but they do have a relationship to one another. I don't even know what to look up for this. Here we go. So hopefully, oh god, that's huge. Let's see if we've got one that's just got Debian on it. No, that's just for Arch, which I'm sure you've heard of before. Let's see if they have a better one. Oh god. Alright, that's a little better. Let's see what we got here. Alright. So, to me, the arrows are going the wrong way here, but notice how Debian is in the middle. Kinda. So, Debian is the basis for Ubuntu, and even though it's hard to tell here, you know what? This is not a great example. Let's try a different one. So I think this is all of them. Alright, here. This is much better, in my opinion. So we've got Debian as a base. Shit. We've got Debian as a base. I mean, obviously, you've got the GNU Linux, which is the kernel, and GNU is a series of tools. I hope I'm accurate in saying it that way. So you got the base Linux, GNU Linux operating system, and then based on that, you got a bunch of tools and other pieces of software that make up Debian. And then from there, all these other things branch off of it. The one that we care about is Ubuntu, so where the hell's that? Here we go. Here's Ubuntu. So this is by year, so that's in the middle of 2003 is when that came out. I didn't know that. So here's Ubuntu. Now, this doesn't go, I guess this doesn't go far enough, but Debian, so you got Linux Mint over here, which is based on Ubuntu, and then Ubuntu is based on Debian, and then Debian is based on GNU Linux. So there's probably Arch in here somewhere as well, and there's some other ones. Red Hat's another popular one. Let's see Arch. Because I'm just Linux from scratch is another one. Here's Arch. I actually didn't know that was a branch of something else. Gentoo, maybe you've heard of that one. Anyway, the point is, it's important for you to know that if you're going to be using Linux Mint, if there's something that applies to Ubuntu, and sometimes a lot of times, so if there's a package that you can install for Debian, you can install it on Ubuntu and Linux Mint. And if there's a package on Ubuntu, you can install it on Linux Mint. And that's important because as you search for stuff and find stuff, a lot of things will say that they support Ubuntu, and so if you look for support for Linux Mint, you might not find it. But if it supports Ubuntu, it supports Linux Mint. So I should probably make a note of that. Okay, so just an FYI. Let's see what's next. So we've already got Firefox. Firefox comes pre-installed. So we're just going to install a few pieces of software today just to get our feet off the ground, and then we'll pick up with actually getting into some technical stuff in the next video. So get that ass familiar with the terminal. I know you've already used it before, but just want to reiterate that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get Chrome on here. And the reason we're going to get Chrome on here is because I find Chrome's developer tools easier to work with compared to Firefox's. So I just hit F12. Um, let's make a note here. Alright, those are the ones we're going to start with. So the reason that I want you to get Chrome on here is because I don't find these as easy to work with as I do the ones with Chrome. They're here and they're good. I don't find them as easy to work with. And a lot of times, developers don't, and myself included, we don't develop on Firefox and we don't develop with Firefox as the target browser. Most web pages are supposed to be browser agnostic, meaning you open it up in Firefox and open it up in Chrome, and it's supposed to look and behave the same. But people don't do that, and the browser creators themselves, I mean, they're different programmers, different teams, different pieces of software. They don't always work the same, and in fact, there are reports of developers like changing prices. I think it was for airline tickets or something um, based on what browser you were using. So I think it was always cheaper in Chrome. So anyway, oh god, the first thing we're gonna do, open up preferences, and we are going to turn off the transparency because I can't stand that. And we're gonna say that the background here, where's the background color? Oh shit, that's good enough for me. Now you might think we just do something like this, right? Wrong. Oops. I'm fired. Right, sudo apt install Chrome. Unable to locate package Chrome. Okay, what do I do? Go to Chrome. Download Chrome. 64-bit deb. See? Here we go. It works in I'm glad I explained that earlier. It works in Debian and it works in Ubuntu. They don't have Linux Mint listed, but remember, if you can do it in Debian or Ubuntu, especially Ubuntu, it'll work. Alright, so I could save it. I don't need to. We're just going to install it and be done with it. That was really fast. Oh god, it's a VM. It's so slow. Install package. So, that says Google Chrome stable, so let's see if that's in here. Nope, there's no Google Chrome. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because you can only sudo apt install stuff, A, that you know the name to, and B, that is actually in the repositories that are part of your system. Why isn't Google Chrome in here? The reason is because they consider it proprietary software and they don't publish it to a quote-unquote default Ubuntu repository. So every Linux installation I've ever used does not have Google Chrome accessible through sudo apt install by default. So, but we installed it from the website, so we should be good here. So let's go to Chrome, and we're going to right-click on it, and we're going to add to panel. Cool. Now it's a lot easier. But we're not actually going to use Chrome. That's not my... Get out of here. We're not going to use Chrome. Even though it's got the good developer tools and stuff, it's still pretty slow. Or I shouldn't say it's still pretty slow. It is slower than the alternative. So what's the alternative? I don't know if you've ever heard of Chromium. Oh, God. Dude, alright. We gotta get rid of this Yahoo garbage. We're going to add DuckDuckGo to Firefox. Got it. And while we're at it, we're going to do uBlock origin. That's great. Shut up. For Firefox. Now remember, when you search stuff, always consider the source. Always check that URL. I know you know that, but I can't stress it enough. Alright, so now we're going to get those garbage ads out of here. I guess I should write this stuff down. Not that. And since we did it, I'll list Chrome in here. Okay. We are not going to be using Chrome as part of this demo, but if you do want to use it, I don't recommend it, and I'll show you why in a minute, but if you really want to use it, you can. So why not use Chrome? The answer is because... get this Yahoo out of here. I don't know if you know this or not. Get this out of here too. So Chromium is the open source version of Chrome. So Chrome is built on top of Chromium. So just like Linux Mint is built on top of Ubuntu, Chrome is built on top of Chromium. Get the code. So we can actually get the source code for... Oh, God. We can actually get the source code for Chromium. I don't know how to do it. I don't really care. But you can do it. So it is open source. That doesn't mean that it's free software. It's free as in beer, but it's not free as in freedom. So, anyway, we're not here to get the source code. We're here to actually get Chromium. Or this, I'm just showing you what it is. So this actually is from Google. I don't know if you saw the thing. It said, "Are you a Google employee?" Let's go back to that. Yeah. So, we're not going to do that. So let's get out of Firefox here. So it does come by default in the default Linux repositories. So we're going to install it. 226 megabytes. So I'll copy and paste that. I hope that bi-directional clipboard works. Nice. Cool. So now we have Chromium. Add to panel. I'm actually going to remove Chrome because I don't want it. We don't need it. So now we have a lighter weight mostly proprietary software free, or maybe completely proprietary software free version of Chrome. And for all intents and purposes, you won't notice the difference. And it's still got the nice Chrome developer tools. So now we've got our browsers set up. Um, the next thing we're going to do is get our text editor set up. So if you were to try to use what's here, you got LibreOffice Writer, which is not a text editor. It is a document editor or something. You can't write code in this. This is garbage. Get the shit out of here. Look, it just capitalized my I. It didn't close my curly brace for me. And if I save it, maybe we'd expect to see this in there. So we'll come back to that. Let's get rid of that. Now, first of all, we're going to use some raw tools here. So let's just make a text file. Touch test.txt. Right, we know txt is a text file. So a terminal tool that you can use is Nano. There are other ones like VI and Vim. We are not going to be using those. We're going to be using Nano. Just going to open it up. So here's a text editor. Right? I type that stuff in there, and that's what I get. So now I can write if, and it's not going to close my curly brace for me. But I can write code in it. It's not particularly a good developer environment, but it works. Now, if I want to see the contents of that text file, I'm going to use a tool called cat. So cat just spits out the contents of a file. That's all it does. Now, and if so, let's change that. And there we go. So it spits out the raw contents of the file. Now that thing that I made with the Microsoft Word clone, the LibreOffice Writer, what do you think it's going to look like if I cat that file? Just take a guess. Oh my god. What is all this shit? Well, the answer is we wrote some code in something that isn't a text editor. This doesn't even show up. This is horrible. So, this is why we need a text editor. Because when you start writing stuff, you need to be able to write code easily. And even though you're gonna get into testing, you will absolutely be writing code and reading code. So, what we're going to do is, so there isn't a text editor that's available by default that I personally like. My opinion is that, so the editor that I use is VS Code. It is a Microsoft product, unfortunately. It is easy to use. It has a ton of extensions. It has a version that's native to Linux. It's also for Windows. You might actually have it. I don't know if I put it on there for you, or maybe I gave you Sublime Text. But we're going to use VS Code. So I click on download, and it's already doing it. I'm going to keep it open. Install it. Those are some that we used. Okay, so it's installed now. Once again, pin this to the panel. Now, I'm sure you must have seen me using this just a second ago. That's this. And Control N to create a new file. Get used to some keyboard shortcuts too. So we'll say don't worry about what I'm doing. I mean, you can follow along with it if you want, but you don't have to. Notice how it put those. It put the closing curly in there. It's highlighting them for me to show me where I am. Now we're in a VM, so this is pretty slow. So it sucks, but nice and colorful. I just hit Control S. We're gonna save it. Let's go to the desktop. Say test.js. Okay, here we go. And now if I go back to my terminal, if you want to be really fancy, you can hit Control tilde, and now you got a terminal inside your text editor. I'm going to go to the desktop, and we're going to cat test.js, and it's going to be exactly what we put there. So what the hell? Why isn't there an extra line here? Well, it's because we didn't end the file with a line. Oh, damn, I didn't save it. Let's try that again. There we go. So, just the raw contents. We got a raw text editor here with VS Code. So, you'll want that. And now the last thing, since I already told you about it, last thing for tonight, I'm going to do Postman. Yep, it's got the little Linux thing here. .tar.gz. This will be fun. Alright, get ready for tar.gz files on Linux. So, let's go to downloads. Okay, so we don't care about code, so we're going to get rid of that. So let's... Now, forgive me if you already know how to do this like it's second nature. I'm not trying to patronize you. Alright, what the hell do we do with this? Let's see if there's instructions. View the release notes. Just guessing here. I don't know. Okay, garbage. No installation instructions. So get ready for this too. When you are using Linux, the people just expect that you already know how to use Linux. So get used to not having instructions for things. So if I were to actually open this up in my file explorer, which is called Nemo, you don't have to do this. I'm just doing this to illustrate a point. I can double click on it, but it's not going to install. It's opening, I don't know if you saw that flash up there, it said like Archive Manager, I think. It's just a zip file. So what the hell do we do with it? Well, if I were a noob, I could have just dragged that out here, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do it for real. Let's kill that. Control C to kill. So, have you ever seen the xkcd about tar? Xkcd tar command. Yeah, this is it. So it says to disarm the bomb, simply enter a valid tar command on your first try. And then obviously everybody dies. So we're going to do it. So tar xevf. Don't worry about what those do. this is like unzip. This equals unzip for the most part. So we're just going to do that. That's a lot of files. All right. So we'll stay in the command line just to get some practice in it. See what we got here. So, okay, it created a folder for us. Let's check it out. I'll clear this. All right. So notice how there is an X flag on here. That means that this file is executable. And it also, I knew that because of the color. They're yellow-ish, and they got a star. That depends on what Linux you're using, but we're using Mint. So I know this is an executable file. So to execute an executable file, we're going to do /postman. And there it is. So we're not actually going to get into using it today. Oh, God. Oh, thank God. Skip signing in and take me straight to the app. Whew. Okay. We're not going to do anything with this. This is just us getting it up and running. But notice how when I'm running this, because I opened it from the terminal, it's still running. So if I hit Control C, like, hey, I want to do stuff, and it won't let me. Right, it did nothing. I can hit Control C to get back to the terminal, but now it's killed my running process. There's two ways around that. We're not even going to get into them. What you want to do in this case, if you have the option, which we do, is go to where that executable file is and just double click on it. There you go. So now we don't have it. Now it's not monopolizing some terminal. Okay, so let's get back to our notes here. Where was VS Code? Now the reason I'm copying these URLs for you is A, for posterity, B, for convenience, but also just so that you know that I am confirming that these links are reputable sources. Because if you Google stuff, unless you're familiar with the source already, you might get an ad or something that doesn't actually go straight to the source. So, and I'll go ahead and put this in here. All right, so at this point, we have our Linux environment set up. We're good with the terminal. We're good with our file explorer. We're good with our various browsers. We're good with our text editor. And we also got Postman. Oh, hell. All right, well, that's another thing. So because Postman didn't give us an installer, we don't actually have access to the shortcut from this menu, but you know where it is. So what we're going to do to make it a little easier for ourselves is we're going to go to our home directory. Oh, what is this? This must be something that it created to store stuff for itself. We're going to create a folder. We'll call it apps, because that's what the kids call them. And we're going to cut and paste the Postman folder in there. And then we can drag apps over to our bookmarks. And there's Postman. Now, I don't know if you can do an actual file. Yeah, it's not going to let me do a file. That's all right. Creating a shortcut for these. I don't know. Oh, pin? No, I don't want to pin it. I don't know what that does. Creating a shortcut in Mint and Ubuntu is not as easy as it is in Windows or Mac or anything else. So we're not going to do that right now. But you know where it is. You know how to get to it. There you go. I think that should do it for lesson number 1. Just getting some basic tools set up. Um, some of this is probably stuff you already knew. It probably took a lot longer than I expected. It's like an hour and a half, I think. I wanted to go over some concepts with you, go over some of the tools of the trade, um, just show you what it looks like as you move around for real in Linux. I'll get rid of this piece of shit file. Uh, Welcome to your new home.